Well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope despite all odds, I'll be able to do something that might, you know, consider a few topics that might be interesting. And the topic about which I've been asked to talk is the topic of the 12 masters, the 12 primordial masters of Dzogchen, so-called, the Trungpa Chunyi, they are called in Tibetan, which is a rather, how you say, difficult to grasp topic, because first of all, the sources that concern these 12 masters are really scarce, to be honest. And considering the bulk of Tibetan literature, the enormity of texts that Tibetans have produced during the last 12 centuries or so, the sources about the 12 masters are really scant and scarce. Probably the most ancient source about these masters is the Riparanshar Chempegyu, the great tantra of the arising of awareness or instant presence. Later on, there is another, in this source, there is only a kind of very brief mention of the 12 masters. They are not kind of introduced individually. Their names are not mentioned. There is only a reference to their existence in the Saha world. We will come back to that later. And in different places, in different times in this Saha world. The next source that is a little more precise, a little more detailed, and also gives the names of the 12 masters and some more information on the on what they did, their deeds they performed during their lives, and so forth. So that one is a chapter of the Vima Nyintig, the heart essence of Vima, which is, the chapter is called the Logu Chempo, Logu Rinpoche Do Chang, literally something like the pure sutra of the precious history, something like that. Then later on, another source that took up the topic once again is the Tekcho Rinpoche Dze by Longchenpa. Maybe at this stage I introduce some viewers so that I'm not talking with my computer only. So the Tekcho Rinpoche Dze is a quite complex text, and in fact that is the one which by Longchenpa, the one with which I have a little more familiarity, because we started translating it with a group of translators. And here we have a little more detail again, and probably this is the base of everything that came later. There are also some termas, terma text, which mention these 12 masters, particularly by Pavotsulla Trenwa and also by Tasham Nudendorje. They are more descriptive. Obviously, as you know, termas are texts which, according to tradition, were hidden by some student of Guru Padmasambhava, and then later on rediscovered by some rebirth or manifestations of his disciples. So basically, we can ascribe these texts to Guru Padmasambhava himself. So more or less, these are the main sources about the 12 masters. You will find also some other texts that mention them, but mostly they kind of retake the same information that were already given in the older text. For what concerns Western languages, if you are interested to go a little bit deeper for, that whatever much there is to say about these masters, probably the most complete book is the Supreme Source by Chögyal Namkhai Norbu and edited by Adriano Clemente. And also there are texts translated in the Wellspring of the Great Perfection by Eric Pema Kunsang. It's a collection of translations of text, of which some of which also deal with the 12 masters. So another reason why I got interested into these 12 masters, although it's a long time ago, is because I was editing and compiling the biography of all the masters that are depicted in the 8 sides, in the 8 sides of the Gompa of the Great Liberation in Merigar in Italy, which was the main center, as probably many of you know, the original center that gathered around Chögyal Namkhai Norbu and his students. So in this temple, and I will use the images which portray the 12 masters as a kind of, guide through the talk. And I also would like to point out that I will not go too much into detail of the individual biographies and deeds and characteristics and so forth of these masters, because that is easily to be found in the sources I mentioned earlier. So there is a panel in the, maybe I can, okay. There is a panel here in the Gompa in Merigar. It is the panel which is on the western side, the one above the throne, which was used for the teachings, and the one looking eastwards, that is looking symbolically in the Tibetan world. Many temples, many Gompas do have their door open to the east, as happens more or less all over the world, so that you are looking into the first light of the morning when the sun rises. And this is what this panel does in a way. It looks towards the east and is kind of enlightened, I should say, by the first rays in the morning sun. If you have had the occasion to be in the Gompa of Merigar around in spring, it is pretty a nice experience when the rays of sun start illuminating this part of the Gompa. In any case, this is a very interesting and very beautifully crafted, artistically and symbolically crafted representation of the 12 masters, which is quite rare in the Tibetan world. Recently, maybe, perhaps in a few monasteries, for example, in southern India, I seem to remember that in Bailakuppe, there are representations of the 12 masters. Nevertheless, they are quite scarce and scant. I will try here today, this evening, to show you via, 3 groups of images, one taken from the Gompa, of course. By the way, the author of the Gompa representation is the very special, I should say, very from a certain point of view, innovative artist and great master Dugu Chögyal Rinpoche, who introduced a very unique style, I would say, while keeping and continuing to represent traditional images with all the features that they need to have in the grammar of Tibetan art, in the grammar of Tibetan, traditional Tibetan art. In a way, we can understand Tibetan art to be a language in its own right. Although a language that does not make use of words to communicate, but it makes use of forms, colors, symbols more than anything else. And with this, it produces, it puts together a journey, let's say, and a journey designed for the viewer of those art pieces to kind of move ahead towards, obviously, the goal of the whole of Buddhism, which is nothing else than enlightenment. So I hope that I will be able to show you, using these three sets of images of the 12 masters. One is taken from a sumbum, meaning collected works of Longchenpa, which has been recently edited in China in 2009. It is probably the most complete collection of the works of Longchenpa. Then the second set of images I will use is a set of tsakali. Tsakalis are little representations, generally square or rectangular, which represent in very simple ways most often some deity, and they are generally used in ritual proceedings, so to show so that the master can show an image of the deity to the disciple, maybe also use it as a medium of initiation. You know that during initiation, particularly in the tantric world, there is the mandatory touch, physical touch between the master and the disciple. And very often this is not done directly, but via an object that is taken by some assistance of the master to the disciple and then maybe touched on the head. In many cases, these tsakalis are used to do this. So this series of tsakalis is taken from the Himalayan art website. So that is quite easy for anyone to download, I think. Okay, so let us start with the meaning of the 12 masters. What do they do? The general idea is that these masters, particularly they are common and well-known in the old tradition, in the Nyingma tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and particularly even more, they are mentioned in texts of the Dzogchen texts of the Dzogchen category. They are sort of a theme of the Dzogchen narrative, particularly when we are looking at, let's say, history, or the way how the transmission of Dzogchen teachings has originated and continued within our world. So these 12 teachers do perform the function to bring the teaching amongst beings. They do connect beings with the source of the teaching, who is, as always, as usual, the whatever you want to call it, that is represented in this context by the Buddha Samantabhadra. So in general, it is said that the 12 Buddhas, or the 12 teachers, were emanated by Vajradhara. The text talk about Vajradhara, or Dorje Chang in Tibetan. We'll see later how that is then not always the case in the artistic representations. And then Dorje Chang, who is a Sambhogakaya emanation, projects sort of 12 Nirmanakayas who are intended to cope, to adapt, to teach in accordance with 12 different situations, 12 different situations in space and time. So for this, there are said to be 5 conditions. No, they are called Punsun Tsopa Nga in Tibetan, the 5 perfect characteristics, let's say, which refer to the teacher, so who is giving the teaching. They refer to the time in which the teaching is given. They refer to the place where the teaching is given. They refer to the teaching that is given, and to the retinue that receives the teachings, to the listeners to the teachings. So these are all circumstances, so to say, that are set up to produce the perfect environment, the perfect situation for these teachings to be as effective as possible within the various limitations of time and place. So let's start from the beginning. The beginning is the so-called Adi Buddha, Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra has is obviously formless. It is colorless. It is something that cannot truly be grasped by any form, by any word, by anything, because it is beyond mind. I would say that even to say it is a little bit strange. No, he is here or there or beyond. No, because is refers somehow to existence as well. In any case, Samantabhadra is used as a symbol to enable viewers, to enable those who have a contact with him, to elevate their understanding, their intellect, their intuition, maybe their realization beyond the representation itself. Artistic representations do have the very great, very big advantage as compared to words, to descriptions, to analysis, to reasoning, that they are able to also to communicate with aspects of the individual that are not necessarily mental, that are not necessarily on the surface of their consciousness, but they should enable to pierce through, to go beyond the appearance, to go to the truth that these images are designed to represent. As I very often like to quote from Ananda Kentish Kumaraswamy, the great art historian and commentator and so forth, art is the beautiful representation of truth. Okay, so we have some beauty between us and the truth, okay, on the other side of the image itself. So we will, I will try to give you a few indications of the tools of the artists, in order that the tools that the artists have in order to represent the that truth that they like to express at a certain point. So Samantabhadra, for example, is represented in a human form. Human form is used for us because we are humans, and it is something that we can recognize. Also, we can kind of see ourselves within that. We can see that that is something that we are also potentially. Maybe in this case of Samantabhadra, we can also reflect on the fact that Samantabhadra is within each being, each one of us, and also it is kind of enlightenment is ourselves overcoming the mental hurdles between our dualistic mind and the recognition that we are none else than Samantabhadra. So he is represented in human shape. Of course, the human shape is a little bit, abstracted. It is not a common person. He is blue. In general, here his blue is quite light, not too dark. In general, he tends to be very dark. The blue is very intense and very, thick, like the night sky. Maybe towards, when maybe there is some moon or something that you can see the blue. Sometimes it is even black. Black is before light, no? So before any manifestation, before anything comes into being. So he is completely naked also. You see, he does not have any ornament. He does not have any cloth, any earrings, jewels, or anything like that. He is just as he is, uncontrived, unmodified. He does not have any apparent quality, anything that goes outside for us to grasp. So he is the principle in itself, the absolute principle in itself, let's say. Of course, the language we use in this regard is often very a little bit short, a little bit failing, particularly me, because I'm not a native English speaker. So, but I'm sure words will never grasp that which is on the other side of this image. Then we can see that he is in the full lotus position called Vajra Asana. And he also has the two hands in the meditative equipose mudra position. Okay, so this tells us, both of these elements tell us that he is absorbed within himself. No, this is, I think it's called Hana Mudra, this meditative equipose position of the hands. Generally, his eyes are a little more closed than this. No, you hardly see the iris under the eyelids. That you can see that the eyes are slightly closed, but still a little bit of openness. Then he is sitting within a tile, let's say a circle, which most probably is to be understood as three-dimensional. So it's a sphere, no, a sphere of light. And I hope you can, over the internet, appreciate the color scaling and the hue that is really very beautifully represented. It looks like maybe an iris of an eye or something like that. In any case, what are there are the usual colors of the elements, for example. Again, he is seated on a lotus flower. Flowers seem to be a leitmotif in all of the depictions of the 12 masters, 12 primordial masters of the Dzogchen. They are omnipresent. They give they transmit an idea of beauty, of life, of perfume, scent, and so on and so forth. So lotuses in particular, I believe all of these you can see here in the tile are lotuses, although differently represented, and some look like lilies and other flowers, but I think mostly they are lotuses. So what is a lotus? A lotus is, symbolically speaking, the matrix of any manifestation. Lotus is the elemental contribution for manifestation. The lotus is that that stands as the ground, as the foundation of anything, and contributes all the formal aspects for manifestation itself. A lotus is a kind of, you may say, the female principle, no? So the one contributing its own body to manifestation, let's say. Obviously, I'm using a little bit of imagery and a little bit of maybe orthodox language in describing these things. So you see, flowers all over. Flowers, from this perspective, are that which, from the principle that is absorbed in itself, give it the possibility to manifest outwardly, to give free expression to all of its potentiality, possibilities, okay, the possibilities of the absolute. All of manifestation is contained within this principle, Samantabhadra, as a possibility. Let's say, from a certain point of view, we could say that Samantabhadra is possibility and the lotus represents potentiality. Okay. From this then principle, we have, according to the texts, well, how manifestations then happens. In general, we have 3 levels, Dharmakaya, in which Samantabhadra is kind of the principle, or is the Dharmakaya itself. From there comes the Sambhogakaya, the body of, I don't know, some call it total resource, perfect resource, or enjoyment or these kind of things. That is where all the deities of Tibetan Buddhism kind of manifest themselves. In particular, from the texts say that it was Dorje Chang or Vajradhara who manifested, and who took it upon him to manifest 12 teachers in the world, and to perform the deeds that I was talking about earlier. And to do so, first of all, he manifested in Vajradhara, who is, strangely enough, from my point of view, always represented in artistic, in the artistic world as Dorje Sempa, who is instead Vajrasattva and not Vajradhara. I'm not sure why. Also in the Longchenpa text, it says it's Dorje Chang or Vajradhara, who is the first manifestation, who then emanates the Nirmanakayas, about which we will talk later on. But when we look at art, always there is Dorje Sempa, Vajrasattva. Now, one possibility, but it's just a hypothesis, I have never heard it from people or seen it written. A possibility is that in the Dzogchen teaching, the principle that is responsible for the communication and the transmission of Dzogchen teaching is very often said to be Vajrasattva. The kind of formal origin of those teaching is Vajrasattva himself. So Vajrasattva is represented as a typical Sambhogakaya manifestation. We can see here he has a Vajra at his heart and a bell on the hip. And he is also very, beautifully ornamented with jewels, with some clothing. Here it is a dhoti, like South Indian, tissue that you wrap around your waist in sometimes very elaborate ways. This is also made of the 5 colors, which is also interesting. And he has earrings, and he has the diadems on the head, and he has the usual ushnisha, the protuberance on the crown of the head. He also has a hue, but he starts to have, as you can see, disciples around him, 2 seemingly Buddha-like figures around him, and then the usual flowers. He is also a principle. He is also a kind of stage towards manifestation that maybe there are some mics on that. Maybe you could, if you can, look at your mic. I hear some sounds. Okay. Thank you very much. So he is surrounded by flowers because he also is a principle of manifestation. He emanates further on. All of the figures we see are surrounded and seated upon flowers. So you see Vajrasattva is also seated on a lotus, which is the element that provides form to him, provides gross element, provides things that are perceptible. Okay, so also you can see his very elegant figure that is kind of wave formed, a sort of arch. He's not sitting straight like Samantabhadra, but rather he has this wave form going up, which resembles or reminds of a certain attitude towards play, towards playing. Play is always a very interesting and recurrent concept, both in India and in consequently in Tibet, both in India in terms of you know, ancient India, meaning what generally is called Hindu India, and also in Buddhism, because play, called lila in Tibetan, sometimes it's called generally it's said to be rolpa, is something that is done without any need to do so, simply for enjoyment, simply for sending out, compassionately sending out all of the possibilities that are within the Buddha principle. So yeah, this is then Dorje Sempa. He is not, as Vajradhara is also not part himself of the 12 Buddhas. The 12 Buddhas start with the next one, who is Chögyal Namkhai Norbu. And here we have our three representations. I go through the first two, who are, this is from Longchenpa, then the next one will be the Tsakali, and then thirdly we will come back to the representation in the Gompa by Dugu Chögyal Rinpoche. So next one is very much resembling, in fact, Dorje Sempa, Vajrasattva. He looks very similar to him. He is, you can see how the styles differs completely from the style by Dugu Chögyal. They remain similar, but this is much more static, much more, you know, obeying to rather fixed archetypes, I should say, or fixed stylistic elements that, I mean, of course, it's not particularly a, you know, highly valued artistic image. It's just a reproduction in a book. Most probably it has been done on a computer, or maybe with, you know, modern techniques, acrylic, or I don't know. In any case, this is much more, you know, kind of less communicative as far as I can see it. This is then the Tsakali. Here, instead, you see a little more dynamics going on, a little more care in the representation. Obviously, this is a traditional one, is made, I don't know exactly when, but it is made according to traditional techniques and styles. And you can see there is an accent more on the figure rather than on the things surrounding, like the you know, the background and so forth. But let us go to the Gompa image. You can see it here on the right side. You can see how, while remaining strictly and completely within the you know, iconographic characteristics that the image must have, it adds a sort of freshness, a sort of life, I should say, that drags it out from the little bit stale, you know, paradigmas of the first image that we saw, this one, no, the one from the Longchenpa. Although, I mean, it's nothing wrong with that, but you can see how the contribution of the artist in this case really produced, I would say, I think it's a masterpiece in this, particularly this image I take for quite an example of the work of Dugu Chögyal Rinpoche. And you see, very often there is a debate between, modern art and traditional art, in which modern artists say that traditional artists do not have any freedom. They are bound by strict iconometric, iconographic rules and language that they cannot trespass. And so it is thought that traditional artists do not have very much room to express themselves, no? But truly, the idea in traditional art obviously is not that of an individual person trying to express his own individuality, right? But rather, it is a contemplative individual on the path to Buddhahood who tries to give back his experience of the path, his take on the reality that he wants to represent, okay? That into which he channels his creativity to bring back from his experiences, maybe visionary, maybe meditative, maybe simply reflections, okay? So coming back to our Keu Nawa Tampa, the name means something like the child, Keu is child, unconceivable, or the full name is actually Keu Nawa Tampa Samgi Mikyapa, inconceivable by the mind, vision, the child who is a vision inconceivable by the mind. Okay, that is a typically flamboyant title from the Tibetan world. He is represented, you see, he is the first of the 12 masters. He is represented with one leg, his left leg, in remaining in the Vajra Asana position, meaning the position in which Samantabhadra is, no? So you see the left leg is left there, and also the left hand is there, okay? But the right leg, the right foot starts to move, starts to enter, to get down from his seat and enter towards the world, sort of, and go towards, let's say, the rescue or the benefit of the beings that he is intended to teach. This is called Lila Asana or Ardha Lila Asana, meaning the playful position of the leg, the right leg, no? Playful position is going to move towards us. The right hand is at his heart, and in general, this is the Dharmachakra Pravartana Mudra, the mudra of, if I can see it well, but I think it's that, the mudra of teaching, no, like that. And sometimes it has been interpreted as not like that, someone trying to turn a wheel, but in fact, I think generally it is with two hands, and with one hand he shows his heart, and with the other one he opens it up like a flower, sort of, no? So that's the idea of this mudra. he also starts to have, he also has to ancillary Buddhas, let's say, both have an aura around their heads, and they are listening to his teachings, and they are kind of shaped in the traditional artistic way as the two disciples of the Buddha of our time here and our place here, Shariputra and Maudgalyayana. Okay, so these Buddhas, these 12 Buddhas, maybe I can again hear some noise. Maybe you can help me turning down the microphones. Muting, yeah, thanks. I hope you can still hear me though. Okay, so let us look at the characteristic that are, the framework within which the various Buddhas, the various masters of these 12s, they appear. So, for example, Keu Tampa appears or is manifested or is, he shows himself at the time when lifespan of beings was of incalculable length. This is a recurrent topic. All the Buddhas manifest in successive time periods, which are characterized, they are kind of eons, no, eras, which are characterized by an ever shorter lifespans of the being within. The ever shorter lifespan is produced by the emergence and taking over of the passions, of the emotions, the kleshas, no? Like, for example, the three basic ones, ignorance, attachment, and hatred, right? So as the purity, the luminosity, the nearly endless lives of these beings become darker and shorter and so forth, the emotions rise, attachment and so forth rises. At the same time, beings go from being made of light, simple and pure light, the principle of the elements, they step by step become more solid, become more dark. They need to rely on external nourishment, whilst earlier they were, living on their own light. They needed no clothing, and then later they had no emotion, and later they have. And it is, let's say in short, the traditional process from a kind of golden age towards the dark ages of conflict, which are those in which we here are considered to be living in. Okay, so the place is also very important. It's called, here, for example, for this Keu Tampa, he was born in the so-called Ganden Tsepa, the joyous pagoda, or, pagoda maybe. When he appeared on a lotus, or surrounded by lotuses, on each petal of which a similar form to himself was abiding. And so in short, it was a kind of Buddha land in which everything was just a manifestation of enlightenment. So the teaching in this case, the retinue in this case was thus a composed of by 1002 Buddhas, and the teaching was the Jatal Gyur, which is really difficult to translate. It is a tantra which is thought to be the kind of source, the original text for the Dzogchen teachings. Maybe some translated as the all-surpassing sound, Jatal Gyur. So this tantra was taught to all these who already were Buddhas as a symbol that then later on to the Buddhas and 1,000 Buddhas and 2 Bodhisattvas, if I remember well, which then were, you know, as a kind of auspicious sign of the teaching being spread all over the Saha world. Okay, so next one is Kyewu Mitrupa. Sorry. Yeah, Kyewu Mitrupa. But something happened maybe here. No, this was the last one, sorry. The next one is Jipakyop. Yes, this is the Jipakyop. Full name is Jipakyop Yi, the mind that protects from fear. And here you see the depiction of it, of this Buddha in the Longchenpa collected works. Then we have the Tsakali, and we can start to see here, I think it's quite sui generis, we could say, a little bit strange in terms of Buddhist iconography. The characteristic of this yeah, sorry, it's Kyewu Mitrupa. This is also interesting because you see the iconography here is similar, no? You see Buddha in a hatched egg, as well as 5 surrounding figures in the same situation, probably further hypostasis of himself. But downstairs, the caption says, Jampel Jigkyob Lanamo. So it's wrong because this one is, in fact, Kyewu Mitrupa, which is then written correctly here. I don't know if any one of you reads it. Otherwise, you have to trust me. So here is then the depiction in the Gompa. You see the egg is 5-colored. The scene is much more, you know, light radiating. There is a strong reference to light, particularly light of the 5 colors, light that that, you know, radiates in all directions. Previously, the earlier world where the life was inconceivably long, beings just appeared. They were not born from somewhere, no? They just appeared there, sort of emanations. Here, there is a solidification, a progression towards more solid states of existence, and the beings are born out of eggs. Eggs, nevertheless, are an important, reference in the Indo-Tibetan, Hindu and Buddhist, let's say, ancient mythology, as elements symbolic from which the world comes forth, springs forth. For example, Brahma Anda, the egg of Brahma, is a situation, a principal situation from which then manifestation comes forth. You can see that also in many stupas. There is a round part, particularly the Nepali style. Okay, sorry, this was probably my keyboard showing its problems. In any case, egg is also particularly important as an origin element in the Bonpo teachings, the ancient pre-Buddhist Bonpo teachings. In any case, here the iconography is quite also easy to understand, straightforward. You see all the Buddhas in the retinue, let's say, in the 5 secondary eggs, so to say, are in the Dharma Chakra Pravartana Mudra, so that one of turning the wheel of the Dharma, in which the main figure only has the left hand. Okay, so you see here, interestingly, also the caption is not correct. This is actually Kyo Mitrupa, but what is written here is Jikyop or Jipakyop Lanamo. So I was wondering why there was this exchange in the Gompa in Merigar, and when I found out that there is the same exchange in the Longchenpa illustration, the Longchenpa collected works illustrations, I thought that maybe that one might be the source of the other exchanging the switching names, so to say. So again, flowers, lotuses all around. You see here the generally present lotus upon which the figure sits in whatever position, like here in the one on the right, you can see the lotus and the figure sitting upon it. Here it is substituted by an egg, or by a hatched egg. And in fact, they might be, they have certain elements of similarity, because eggs are also like, sources for manifestations, understood as that. So let's go on. The next one is the one with which the caption has been inverted. It's called Jipakyop, or the full name is Jipakyop Yi, the mind. Yes, the mind which protects from fear. And this is the Tsakali. You see how here also the lotus is coming from an ocean, and as well as those of the two figures here, kind of a primordial ocean or soup. And the characteristic, iconographic characteristic of this Buddha is silken ribbon that he has in his hand, which we can see also here. No, I'm tried to find specific references to the symbolism of this, you know, which in the work of Dugu Chögyal seems to be kind of a laser beam, no? Although, you know, bent, but rather than silk, it seems to be made of light, sort of, no? And you see how he has a rather, you know, very lively lotus underneath. And still and again, he is surrounded by flowers and so on and so forth everywhere. And also in this case, he has 4 female figures who are kind of swimming around in the space around him. They are disciples, maybe consorts, maybe you know, attendants, and so on and so forth. One interesting thing about these 12 Buddhas is that they are all depicted in this context here. They are all depicted alone, without a consort, without their female counterpart. Obviously, they have a female counterpart. I have had the occasion to look at a text, Eterma, I think by Jimmy Limpa, if I don't remember, or it was a iconographic guidebook, which was according to which there was the possibility to depict also some of the Buddhas, particularly the earlier ones, with the consort also, embracing a consort. So here you see the idea of joyfulness, play, and you know, happiness, bliss that surrounds this figure is still very much apparent. By the way, at this point we are arrived when Jipa Kyob manifests, we are arrived to the point in which lifespan is further shortened to 100,000 years, which is not bad for those who like living. So yeah, let's see the next one. The next one should be Shunu Namrol. Shunu Namrol means thorough play, joyful and youthful play. Shunu means young and youthful, and Namrol means complete playfulness. You see, this is not that much apparent from the figure in the Longchenpa book. It seems he is rather nearly difficult to distinguish from some of the other figures, right? He does not have specific iconographic characteristics that take him very much apart from the other. A little similar to that is the figure in the Tsakali. We have 2 surrounding figures, disciples, and maybe also bringing offerings and asking teachings. The mudra is not easy to discern here. I don't see it exactly. But when we come to our figure in the Gompa of Meriga, you can see that the figure is nearly exploding in happiness and joy and wanting to, you know, play around in the whole universe. At least I see it like that. And he is not also in this, you know, full lotus position, which kind of denotes introspection and detachment from contact with the perceptions of the senses, or with the world, or whatever you want to see it. Oops, I have gone a bit too long. In any case, the lifespan gets shorter, and everything gets how to say, grosser, and also the teachings become step by step less, pith teachings or core instructions. I will go a little bit faster. So this one is then Vajradhara Chang, one of the which is mostly given as the principle from which all of this comes forth. But he is also kind of, and probably another form, a hypostasis, another Vajradhara, let's say, also maybe taking place personally into this teaching, no? Tompa Dorje Chang, you can see here. He is generally depicted dark color. We can see it here. He has, Dorje Chang means Vajra bearer. So he who has, he is the one not really to hold the Vajra, but the one who detains all the characteristics of the Vajra. He does not have a Vajra as a outer, characteristic, but rather as an inner quality, right? He sits cross legs, but a little bit, bent towards the left, towards his right side, our left, and he holds two Vajras. I think it's not the Vajra and the bell, two Vajras crossed at his heart. Again, he has Buddhas surrounding him. And the next one is Shunupao Top Den. This one is, oh yeah, a few words on this one. Maybe I should go a little bit faster so we have time for questions. This is a typical wrathful deity of Tibetan Buddhism, no? He has all the characteristics of wrathful deities, the fire halo, the 5 skulls on the head, the position, which is, a kind of a dancing position. Then he has the tiger perizome, and in general they have also bone ornaments and so on and so forth. These are typically, and 3 eyes, no? These are typically iconographic items that were inherited by the Buddhist wrathful deities, according to tradition, from when Rudra, the Hindu form of Shiva, let's say, was subdued, and all his, iconographic characteristics were shifted on the Buddhist ones. So here you see it more, a little more with, I would say, with showing a little more artistic hand from the side of the author, the artist. And here we can see it in the interpretation by Dugu Chögyal. Here you see the wrath has become less important. The wrathful items, iconographical items, are left kind of out. rather, what is the reminder that this one is more or less a wrathful manifestation is that the fire halo is still there, right? And also maybe this dynamic stance of the feet and of the hands, no? It is a stance which is sometimes typical for Vajrapani and this kind of, and this set of um, um, deities, no, of iconographic elements. So next one then is also semi-wrathful, I would say, Transon Trepegalpo, which means the Rishi wrathful king. Let's see how he comes then later on. And in the Tsakali and in the depiction by Indegompa in Medigar. So you see fire, this one is also wrathful. He is coming, but with the left foot first, interestingly. He is, I think, doing some teaching here with but probably more kind of hinting to having some hand implements. I think he has a knife or a purva in the left hand, but I'm not sure. In any case, his position is dynamic. Here he has also the fangs bared, fangs with the, you know, very long teeth are one of the characteristics of the wrathful deities. And wrathful forms generally refer to dynamics, to movement. The symbolism of wrathful figures in Tibetan Buddhism is that of movement. Now we come to more figures that are more sort of linked to the Buddha of our times. No, this one could be very well Buddha Shakyamuni or Buddha Shakyamuni, particularly in his first turning of the wheel. No, maybe the Hinayana teachings, or what they generally call Theravada these days, is called Saro Tampa. His attitude, he has this a part of his vest in his hand. His vest is this one with all the patchwork of, you know, square piece of cotton, which is typical for that set of teachings. And also he has a lotus in his hand. His right hand is open towards the outside, but he holds also a lotus. So this is still a reference to manifestation and so forth. You see the same here, but here a lotus is not present. It looks more like what they call Hana Mudra. So, or Dana Mudra, not Dhana, the mudra of giving with the right hand. And we have, this case, the general figure is quite similar, no? I'm not sure what this grabbing his own vest might refer. Here he is more, a little bit more, you know, similar to an arhat rather than in terms of the vest, no, not in terms of the figure, in terms of the dress. Okay, he is also in lotus position, so kind of meditative state. Next one is then Tsewe Namrol. Tsewe Namrol Lodre. He is very similar to the one we had earlier with the silken ribbon. Again here, the rest is more like similar to a Buddha. Again, Dugu Chögyal has depicted him as a very joyful, young, youthful, playful figure, no, with the usual characteristics that we had described earlier. Then there is Wösung Sepol,
Sepo, Osun Sepo. And these figures here, in terms of their teaching, they are more concerned with teachings of the sutra style, the sutra group. No, this one, the next one is depicted with the characteristics that generally are those of the arhat. No, leisurely sitting in a garden, not in necessarily in a meditative position. He has also this, saffron attire, and the inside of that one is blue, or maybe that also is a reference to his Buddha-ness. And the next one is then Ngondzog Gyalpo. This one is very much similar to the Buddha Shakyamuni of our times. You see his characteristics are the left hand in meditative equipoise and the right hand in the Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, meaning the position of touching the earth. And the last one is then Tumpa Shakyetupa, the Buddha Shakyamuni, who has the, you see, this one was the previous one. I got these two in one single take. I think it was the previous one. Oh no, Ngondzog Gyalpo, it was two ago. The other one is on the other side. And now we have Buddha Shakyamuni, typical position with a begging bowl. No, that is a characteristics of his. And also the right hand in a position that I'm not really sure, but I think it is Abhaya Mudra, meaning the position of the hand which exhorts not to be fearful, not to have fear. Okay, I think I've gone far beyond what I wanted. Sorry for that. And let us see if there are questions. There seem to be quite a few. Okay. Oh, the names, they are quite complicated. We will be, I think you can have a look at the text which I told you about earlier, or the Gompa book. In the Gompa book, there is a description also. I forgot to mention that one, the book of the Temple of the Great Liberation in Medigar. I don't know if you have occasion, you can have a look at that. You can find it in Lake Den Ling as soon as it's possible to go in London, if you are there, based there. Oh, someone wrote. That's good, thanks. Yes, these are all phonetic transcriptions. They might vary, no? You can find other dimension. The white color may be the bell. Oh, I think that refers to earlier. What he had in his hand. But in general, I'm not sure in any case. Sorry for that. Yeah, Shirab Miwo is there. This I did not mention. Maybe thanks for the for the mention. Shirab Miwo is kind of a side figure here. He is on the extreme left of the panel, and he is added as a kind of addition to that. I think the idea here is to also relate and connect maybe the Bonpo and the Buddhist tradition. No? Probably I'm not sure about that, but the 12 masters might also appear somewhere in the Bonpo teachings. Vajradhara has white. Vajradhara, yes. Here, yes, this might be a bell. That's right. Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks for the, I start not to see correctly. That is interesting question. In fact, the 12 talwas, are all rather difficult topics. To be honest, when I tried to, sorry, maybe I should go step by step. 12 primordial masters living on planet Earth. Well, it is not said. Obviously, you see, cosmology, traditional Buddhist cosmology is not easy to, you know, integrate with modern cosmology, you know, in terms of planets and so forth. I think mostly cosmology, traditional cosmology should be understood as being largely symbolic. No, for example, the Mount Meru, I don't think that it is necessarily to be understood as a physical mountain on the earth. No, maybe there is something representing it on earth, such as the Kailash, for example, the Mount Kailash in Tibet. No, I think rather that the Mount Meru is a symbol for the center, no, for the axis around which the universe turns, no, and then we are somewhere around that. Okay. What it says about the 12 masters, it says that they are all appearing in this dimension of ours, whatever you want to say that this dimension is, no? However wide you want to look at it. In any case, if not in terms of space, they are very, very, very extremely expanded in terms of time, no? So this Saha, Saha dimension, which in Tibetan is called Mije Jitengikam, the word that does not fear, is extremely large in all terms, no, space and time. But it is particularly in time when it seems really that it undergoes endless eons of, in fact, that's what happens, no? Maybe with ups and downs, but that's what happens. Yeah, this one I think I answered. Commentary of the EMA, there seems to be a correspondence between the last one. There seem to be between the lifespan of being diminishing that you have described. Well, in general, not so precisely. Well, at least I'm not really, you know, this is not really my actual field of research. In fact, I kind of accepted to do this talk because I had worked on the Gompa book earlier, no? But in any case, I'm not aware of this correspondence. Generally, what the correspondence is the correspondence between the shortening of the lifespans and also the, let's say, the quality of life in general is due to the tide of the emotions. No, emotions rise, so beings are more dualistic. They go more into the, you know, worldly things, and they accumulate karma to be born in places less positive, less nice, and less so to say, appealing. So I never saw any reference to that, but that does not mean that it doesn't exist, obviously. Yeah, this 12 talwas, no, I don't think so. 12 talwas is a kind of another set of ideas, you know. I have read, for example, the part in the Techo Rinpoche Dze, the text by Longchenpa describing these. I must say I have not understood very much, to be honest. It is really a language in which it is difficult to relate, not only a language, but a symbolism, no, which is very difficult to relate with, no, to kind of decipher or decrypt or understand that language, right? So it says, you know, in the talwa so and so, there this talwa is placed 9 worlds above the other one and to the right. And then it says the characteristics are this and that, beings are such and such, and this and that happens, no? But to really understand what it refers to, at least in my understanding and in my, you know, in my cultural background, is really difficult. I think, you know, which is obviously not saying anything, but it is really difficult to understand. Maybe one day you can have a look at that. There are some partial translations of the part of the Dratal Gyur that refer to that, I think, around. Okay, yeah, very good. Oh yeah, that is an article on the 12 Primordial Masters. Thanks, Steve. Richard, I mean. Yeah, thanks. Okay, bye. Okay. Saha, yes. Thank you. Thank you, gracias. Muchas gracias. If you have any more questions. Yeah. Where was it, the question?
I've just allowed people to unmute themselves. So if you want to ask any questions, also spoken questions, please feel free.
Maybe I should look more. I can't see the chat anymore.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So there's no females in all of the 12 primordial masters.
No.
It's not really a question, it's an observation, but I found it quite interesting to notice.
Yeah, it is interesting. Here we are in the field of Buddhas, no, that are meant to teach, let's say, all right? In that sense, truly, I would say that these Buddhas need not to be understood as male or female. They are kind of beyond that, no? If you look at the iconography also, and it's also a trait that is mentioned as being, you know, a characteristic or a quality of the image of the Buddha, is that their organs are retracted, within the body itself. No, their male organ is withdrawn, let's say. So that is a reference of the non-gender, not being subdued, or not subdued, but not being under a gender, but being beyond a gender, so to say. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm happy you appreciated. I was on the brink of throwing my computer out of the window.
Okay, if that's all the questions we have, then it's time to thank Fabian so much, as everybody's doing in the chat. And it was a wonderful beginning to our new cycle of talks, which has just started. And please keep an eye on our website. I'll also put the flyer with the next talks in our group chat now. And just keep on checking our Shang Shung website for more talks. We're planning many new ones. The next one.